Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. It's getting close to the end of May, and we're going to go through the garden and we're going to see what our plants are producing. So let's take a look. We're over here in our new section of the garden, and of course we've got herbs that's putting on. About time to maybe start dehydrating or freeze drying oregano and sage. And we've got some tarragon and some summer savory. It's probably time to start dealing with some of those. We've also got some rhubarb. Now, my stalks aren't turning nice and red like some, but these leaves are starting to get some problems. So it might be from the summer heat, different things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and harvest some of this rhubarb here, and we'll probably do that today along with our regular harvest for the farmers market. And of course, we could harvest some beautiful sunflowers from our pollinator attractors here, and they just blooming up away and growing, and it's really a beautiful addition to the entrance of the garden. Now, our French fingerlings, we're going to be digging some of these because they just don't look so good, but a lot of these are just going to be, because they have died back to nothing, they're just probably going to be seed potatoed, and we'll probably try to do a late crop on these to see how they do. Now, some of them are still doing fair. They're not really getting real active, but the ones that have died, we need to go in here and we need to see if there's any potatoes under them. We do have rutabagas. There's a lot of these, and the rutabaga is a type of turnip, and these are about 2.5 to 3 inches in diameter. And we'll probably harvest some of these and put them in the freeze dryer. That way we can have some for later. We'll keep some for now. Now we've harvested all of our red beets. We have some golden beets left. They're not super big, but they're not looking as good now. And what we'll do is we're going to harvest all of these. Normally I just show you plants, but I don't talk about the harvest, and that's really important when it comes to growing something. The harvest is important. We have some cabbage. Now, this cabbage here does not like the sun. I'm going to say that's probably what it is. Now, of course, we got some damage there by something eating them, but we're going to harvest these. These are the late flat Dutch, and we're going to get these out of here, and we'll take some to the farmers market. But we'll take some and we'll eat them fresh. We've been eating them pretty much, and we'll take and blanch some and vacuum pack and freeze it. Now, our collards here, they are doing good. We're going to harvest these out today. We'll get a bunch of leaves off of these. This is one of those kind of where you just keep picking leaves and keep going on. But we are getting some pest damage, and that's what you got to look out for and see if you can see these pests. And you can see, like right here, here's a culprit right here. And what the easiest way when you're doing organic is just go through there and pick them off. But sometimes they just get to hiding so good, or they get to overpopulating to where you can't keep up with them. So you got to make a decision. And for us, a lot of times it depends on whether we're still hungry for that particular crop, or we decide to put something else in there. Now, our peppers here, these are starting to get little peppers on them, but they're not quite ready. These are jalapenos, and a lot of these are just, let's see if we get around here, get a shot. A lot of these are just little bitty, so it's going to be a few weeks. These over here are getting a little bit bigger, so we won't be long on them. Now, my peppers here, I can't remember in the Victory Garden whether this is a bell pepper. I can tell now because it's starting to form one. But the thing I want to show over here, because we're talking about harvesting. Now, we have green tomatoes. Now, everybody thinks about red tomatoes down south. A lot of us, we think about fried green tomatoes. And the way we do around here is we do stir fries. Take cut up some green tomatoes, some fresh summer squash, some onions, and a little bell pepper, and you got a real good meal. Now here's a problem. When you see this on your plant, you need to start looking, because we can see something is taking the leaves off here, and it's definitely left its remains behind. Now, sometimes birds come in here and get these. Sometimes my wife has come in here and already got it, but that's something to check and make sure that there's not a problem, because we definitely don't need a bad worm infestation. Now, these are the Cherokee purples, and they're almost to the top of their cage. Now, we've been in here harvesting squash. Now, this is the size we like to pick. These are nice tender. The seeds are small. That's really tasty at this stage. A lot of people want to grow them bigger, but I'm going to tell you, if you hadn't eaten them small, then you don't know what you're missing. Now, we are harvesting some cucumbers here. These were out of the Victory Garden over here. Now, sometimes you start thinking that you've got to have big. Everybody says bigger, bigger, bigger. Now, I don't normally come in here too much, but harvesting yet. But if you're going to eat a carrot, you can see in the Victory Garden, I've been pulling these, and they're nice little carrots, really tasty. You know, if you want to grow them big and long, that's your business. That's, you know, a lot of people always like to say bigger is better, but I don't think about it that way. I think it's best if the flavor is better and sometimes tender. Now, we do have these Cocozelle zucchinis in here, and they're putting on good. These cucumbers here, they're loading up with cucumbers. We pick a pretty good bit every day. Now, these squash here, which we do have, they are still producing, but the blight is kind of taking over them, and it's not going to be long. These are going to be taken out, but we're still harvesting our cucumbers. Now, a lot of it's got to do with moisture, but they're misshaped. And if you understand why this is, and you can actually cut it open and you can see what's causing it, it makes it easier to understand. But a cucumber has to be visited by a pollinator. They say at least 3 times to fully pollinate it. Now, you can see this flower here is spent. It's gone. If there's anything, if it's going to be pollinated, it's going to be pollinated. But when it doesn't get pollinated good, and a lot of times that's because of moisture content. Now, we hadn't had rain. I have been watering a little bit with my drip system. But what happened is it pollinated up here good, but this end down here didn't get pollinated. So it's going to grow, and it'll grow bigger, but it's always going to be small at this end, or sometimes they'll be curled up. And you cut them open and you can see that the seeds, how they are. Now this is something I hadn't seen before. I got this snail, and I have been seeing snails, but I haven't seen them find them on my crops up there like that. But that lets you know that snails do damage there. Now we'll go around the side of this greenhouse because we're redoing the beds, but we're kind of running behind. Now this celery here, and it's could be bigger and everything else if I fertilized it more, and they all tend to get a little fungus on the end of the leaves, but it's doing good. That's what we left in there. It's nice and dark and full of flavor. Now we do have our chives. We harvest them regular, and we have our rosemary. And this time of year with dill, and this is getting up about 5.5, 6 foot tall, but it starts to go to seed. Now I am going to collect some seeds on this, and we'll talk about that in a different video. But a lot of people, when they make pickles, they want these pretty heads in their jars when they do that, and so that's definitely a lot of seed heads there. Now we're down here at our Nata-pinos, and our Nata-pinos are just like those jalapenos I showed you. They're just now producing. In here in the greenhouse, we've got our parsley. This here is up and good. We've been harvesting some for the market. We're fixing to harvest a bunch and freeze dry it for storage. And over here we have our cucumbers that's in the greenhouse. They're up to the 10-foot level, and they're definitely growing. These are slicers. This is a good size. A little bit smaller than you'd find in the store, but like I say, if you want the big seeds and everything else, then that'd be the way to go. But these, we'll be harvesting a bunch of these today. Now we've got some holy basil here. This has got medicinal properties. It's a little bit different than the sweet basil. And over here we've got cilantro, and I keep planting and planting and planting. I got to come in here and cut out because this here is getting ready to seed, so it's going to send up a seed stalk. The leaves are different, and I've talked about this before because you can see how open and everything they are. But we'll harvest out some of that. We've got plenty in the freezer still that we vacuum packed because it stores well that way. We've got another variety of cucumbers here. These are smaller. You can see our pests in here this morning. I need to get the vacuum while it's still cold and they don't fly, so we can take and vacuum those up before they get out of hand. But they tend to come in here to this variety of cucumbers. I don't see them on the other ones. Now I could harvest this squash. It is getting pretty big, but this Cocozelle here is for seed, and so the skin's getting harder. We're going to let this grow to maturity so we can harvest mature seeds. We have some lacinato kale or dinosaur kale, and this can be harvested. We get a few bug holes, but it doesn't affect us. We don't care. Now this lettuce, this has been in here for a while. We're going to harvest out this whole thing and cut this out, and this will be for a new crop. But it's been really good. We're trying to keep it in the greenhouse, kind of keep the sun down, so maybe it won't bolt, and we can. We've got another crop on the way. We've got our basil. We've been trying to keep pinching the tops out. You pinch these flowers off so it doesn't flower, and of course it spreads it out. But we've got quite a bit of basil here. We're going to freeze dry it. Everybody uses basil in their cooking, or I say just about everybody does. It's I like it in my eggs. We would do it in Italian dishes, different things like that. But anyway, it's got quite a few tops that are trying to pop up and flower, and we're going to take them out. Our early crop of jalapenos, which I get the leaves out of the way, they're producing good. We're harvesting a few. And our cherry tomatoes, now I got to get out here because these are starting to droop down. I got to get the ladder to pin them up. But as you can see, we've got a lot of tomatoes coming in here, ripening up. So this really worked out good with this early batch, and these things are just loaded up. Now this lettuce here isn't ready. You can see it's just starting out, but in a couple of weeks this will be ready to start harvesting. Lettuce grows really quick, and especially if you can get it in the ground when it's small, so it doesn't start getting root bound in its container. And this is the next batch of cilantro. We're taking, I try to plant them every couple of weeks or so. That way, whenever they start going to seed, I've got a new batch following. And of course, springtime wouldn't be springtime unless we had bell peppers. And these have been producing good. I like these. This is Emerald Giant, and this is a nice meaty bell pepper. And we've got our early celebrities. They've been slowly ripening up, these ones that put on real early, and I've been taking them off as they ripen, just enough to keep us in a salad. But and you could cook with green tomatoes, but they're loaded up, so it won't be long. If I want to make a batch of salsa or something, I'll just take and get after it. Now these are about 4 foot, and we did have a bunch of hornworms that wanted to eat this. I think we've got most of them. There was a few small ones that we've seen that were left behind, and we've got our one cherry tomato that's in amongst here too. I have a couple of varieties of chard. I have this Bright Lights chard, and then I have this Vulcan, or some call it rhubarb chard, that's doing good. I have some sweet cherry peppers. Of course, they don't look like cherries, but they're ready to harvest. If you want a little bit, kind of tastes like a sweet bell pepper. And we have cabbage. We've just about harvested out the last of this, but it's still doing good, still giving us a lot of grub. We have some more cherry peppers over here, but these cherry peppers are hot. They're not sweet. Our red cabbage is finally coming along, and this is small head, but it's perfect for me and my wife, and we'll be eating some red cabbage here pretty soon. Now right next to it we have some broccoli, and we'll cut all these out of here today. These are Green Magic. We've just started some seed for some gypsy. Now this over here were some other varieties. We've been letting these go to seed. They've had real loose heads anyway. They don't like the heat, and we've been feeding them to the chickens, and they love them. So that's a good thing. But there's a whole lot of broccoli sprouts, side shoots off this since we picked the heads, and we try to harvest these at least once a week. We got to kind of watch because they'll start trying to go to seed. We've got a few banana peppers that are getting ready. Our later bell peppers, they're not quite ready, but they're forming their peppers, so it won't be long. We'll be getting some off of them. Now our tomatoes are really doing good. There's many tomatoes in here. It's been kind of a pain to keep up. We've got all different kinds. These here are Kellogg's Breakfast, and Kellogg's Breakfast is known for a big tomato, and you can see this one here is definitely, it's got some size to it. Won't be long I'll get to taste one. I haven't grown this variety before, and the yellow tomatoes are mild, so that's definitely going to be something there. Now these are German Johnsons. Now this is one I haven't grown either before. They talk about it, how good it is, and we'll find an easy one to get in here. But they're starting to form. They're not real big yet, but they're starting to set some tomatoes. Now the rest of these are cherry tomatoes, and after we get past, well, these here are German Johnson too. That's down here trying to form good ones. But once we get past this plant here, these are all cherry tomatoes, like the red ones inside. They have plenty set. They're nice and big. Won't be long we'll be enjoying those. Now this is a orange cherry tomato, and they're just getting loaded up and crazy. They don't tend to grow as tall as others, but as you can see, they set so many flowers. It's just crazy. We're still harvesting our Hatch green chilies. They're starting to put on, and we have over here, we have our paprikas. Now these will be a while. They're loaded up with peppers, but these have to stay until they turn red. Of course, we know we like red peppers. They're not real hot, but they are a good flavored pepper, and there's plenty of them. Our long cayennes, as you can see, they're nice and long. They're doing good. I've been picking them green. I haven't been letting them get red yet. And I have to look because I don't have my varieties in there. Good. This is shishito peppers. I mean, now these are getting ready. They're getting loaded up. And for those of you that follow around, I had 2 apples that had pollinated and stayed. One fell off, and now the other one's gone. So no apples for this tree this year, but that's all right. That shows that next year it ought to bloom nice, and hopefully this other one will bloom so I won't have to pollinate it. And we are getting some strawberries down in here. We've had a lot of fungal issues, so a lot of them aren't very good, but we have been getting a few to eat. And our blueberries this year are doing really good. These are loaded with blueberries. They're different time of the year, so some's earlier, some's later. We go over here. We can see this variety here has taken, and it started ripening up some. We've been picking some. Same with, there's a few off in there, but there's a lot that's coming on later. And that's, if you're going to plant blueberries, I recommend planting a bunch of different varieties. That way you have blueberries for a longer period, or if you have a cold spell that might affect them, then you can still get some type of harvest off them. Now our garlic, this is leek here, it's going to seed. I've got some other going to seed, so I don't really need this, but this garlic, the tops have died back, and I need to get out here and harvest it. It's not big. Garlic this year didn't do good. Our elephant garlic, we're going to come out here this week and harvest it. Most of it's probably not going to have stratified its cloves. It's probably just going to be a solid bulb. I don't know why that affected it so much this year. Most of it I tried to get the scapes off before it flowers, because when you leave these scapes on there, they just draw the energy. And when they're first come out, before they open that seed top, they're nice and tender and great to use in different foods. But once they start opening up, the scape gets hard and it's not as good. Now we're going to look here. We've got, and they're not quite ready, but you can see we've got a few eggplants that's forming off in here. No, we might have a small one. Most people think of big eggplants. Now these are varieties that set smaller ones down in here, and we'll harvest them today. But anyway, that's where we're looking at in the garden, the main garden today. It's really coming along. Hopefully I'll start having a little bit more of these Kajara melons that I've got growing out. Hopefully they'll go ahead and take off and start putting on some female flowers and start forming some little melons. But I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. And of course, for those of you that aren't subscribed, you just hit the subscribe and hit that bell and select all, and you can be notified whenever I do my updates. And of course, give it a big thumbs up and share it. Enjoy that gardening experience.